And we're live. Good afternoon, BounceBack Network, and welcome to the sixth episode of the Global Entrepreneurship Series. Joining me today again is my good friend, Sir Colin Christie of Global
Hi,
Chamber.
Sam.
Hey, Colin, how are you?
Good to
Happy
see
midweek.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, these weeks just go by like a flash. I tell you, it just seems like we were here yesterday on the last
Definitely.
episode.
Yeah, I know, but good that in the streaming networks are bringing on new shows like so.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the Philippines, still the 13 is still trending, right? So it's a Colin 13 stands for 13. It's a popular Filipino comics that has been animated by Netflix. Thank you. In fact, our colleague at BounceBack Network, RJ Ledesma, interviewed the writer and the director last night in the show. So again, you have a lot of content here at the BounceBack Network. Thank you again, Global Chamber, for bringing in business to business show like Global Entrepreneurship. So Colin, what are we up to today? You're the main speaker right now, right? Again, and your topic really is like there's a mystery behind it. Like I remember last week when we were
right.
today, I said you do not like to talk about it. So leadership, very heavy, especially during this time of the pandemic, Colin. Like we look up to our leaders to take us through and beyond, to be able to overcome the challenge of pandemic. So any leader that you have in mind that's shining right now globally? So
Well, of course, there's all the usual suspects. I always like to refer to my fellow countrymen, since I'm from South Africa, as Dusan, who, by the way, is not able to be with us today. But hi, Dusan.
Edson.
And that's Elon Musk. I mean, he's in the news. He's somewhat controversial, where he stands on cryptocurrencies and whatnot. But I think he has some tremendous characteristics of leadership. He's very hands-on. He dares things that other people wouldn't dare. He really innovates. He's had successes and failures. He multitasks like no one I've ever seen. I don't know how he does
Mhm,
that.
mhm, mhm.
But yeah, I think he's one definitely that people I think look at these days.
Yeah, and he's very controversial too, right, Colin? So like you mentioned today that he sort of let go of some people, right? So
Yeah, he let go some people today. That's in the news, and they're
yeah.
like, what was the basis and all of that. So um, there's something that around what he did today that's part of one of my secrets. So I'll give another little teaser there. So we'll come
Mm,
back to that.
interesting, and at the same time, Elon's also competing against two other leaders like Jeff Bezos and of course Richard Branson of Virgin Atlantic. They all want to go to space, right, or to conquer space.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
they're
there
not
was a there
contented
was a
here and
fun
there.
there was a funny meme today that I saw about Jeff Bezos who said, uh, "Let him go to space, let him stay there." so,
Yeah, I know. I mean,
so
what people do, right? I think they started a petition, right? It can be an online petition. I think over 40,000 people says that, yeah, Jeff, stay there in space, right? So, but then again,
right.
these are the leaders. Yeah, they push the frontiers. I'm a fan of both Star Wars and Star Trek, right? So, and of course, the Star Trek, mantra to go where nobody has gone before, to boldly go where nobody's gone before. Like, so it's like the classic. So, again,
Right.
Colin, I hope they, there's actually one good news in the Philippines from the startup community. Let me share my screen, right? So,
Sure. Yeah.
there's this Grocery. Grocery is a Filipino startup. They were able to raise over 30 million in funding from global investors. So really, despite all of the the contraction in the economy, of course, and then the pandemic still not being fully controlled here, you have good news like these. Like there's still companies that are really solving problems of people. And you know what the sari sari store is, right? It's like your neighborhood store
Sure. Yes.
that
Of
that
course.
carries
Yes.
all kinds of stuff. And the thing is that they have evolved, Colin. They some of them have evolved into financial centers now. You can actually remit payments. You can if you have a relative that's working abroad, call an OFW, they can send their remittance directly to those sari sari stores. And what the story says is that they're an e-commerce platform, and they intend to grow. With this new round of investments. Currently, by the end of 2020, the report says here again. Thank you, Business World. They have over 50,000 sari-sari stores in over 100 municipalities and cities in the Luzon Island. So with this new infusement of capital, they aim to expand to 200 cities and serve over 300 sari-sari stores. So awesome, right? I mean, again, I think this is one really good news, and I kudos to the leader, ER Rolian, and he's a Filipino. He has other partners, but again, congratulations to you. You have inspired the startup community. Colin and I have startups also, and hopefully you'll be able to also get similar funding in the future, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah, there.
if I can just remark, that's so good news that you're sharing there. And, sorry stores are one of the real gems of the Philippines. As you
Mm-mm.
know, Sam, this is my adopted country. I've been working here for about 20 years already. But I do remember when I first came here a long time ago, I was quite fascinated with the sorry stores because, of course, in the US where I had lived previously, the neighborhood store is largely gone. I think you have to go back a few
Mm.
decades. They had the neighborhood stores. I do remember growing up in Johannesburg, where I was born in South Africa. In my early years, I remember there were some neighborhood stores, but nothing like what we have here. And it's quite amazing too, as you commented, to see how digital transformation has even reached the sorry store. Sometimes I think they're even more innovative and more digital than some of our big businesses are with
Yeah.
their payment remittance, and they're so digital. It's quite amazing. So the support that we can give, like you say, it's a real gem of the Philippines, something the country should be really proud of how it
Mm-mm.
supports its small business folks.
In fact, in last week's session with Ray, right? Ray mentioned this innovation by a Sari Sari store. Remember that? So the
Yes,
Sari Sari
the
store had,
cigarettes.
yeah, like for 20 pesos, you smoke all you can. Like,
Amazing, amazing.
yeah. And his insight there is that during lunch break, right, most of the construction workers who go there, that's when they smoke. So to entice them further, the Sari Sari store did that. And of course, when they smoke, they have to eat first, right? So they buy from the Sari Sari store, etc. So really amazing, amazing how things are transforming right now. Okay, so Colin, let's not hold our BounceBack Network and the Global
Sure.
Entrepreneurship Network waiting. So again, I'm going to pull up your slide. Okay, and then I'm going to disappear for a
Great.
bit, and then the floor is yours,
Yeah.
my friend. Okay.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, Sam. So there we go. So we have the great reveal. I've been teasing you all online and last week about the secrets of success in business. So that's going to be our topic, and I've picked three. So before I get to the secrets, though, let's just set the scene. What is leadership? So I can't resist. I was telling Sam one of my favorite comics for many years has been the Dilbert strip. If you've never seen it before, go to dilbert.com and read up all the all of the ones. So, what is leadership? Is it goal setting? So you can read the comment here. The key to leadership is setting vague goals that are a combination of jargon and wishful thinking, says the boss. That way, I can keep dumping work on you without hearing you whine that it doesn't fit with your goals. And then he says, you have to admit my system is better than whatever you're doing over there. And then the employee, yeah, Dilbert. Is it so? Certainly, of course, there is an element to leadership of goal setting. It's setting goals for folks, not the way that this boss, I think, goes about doing it as a sort of a negative example. But yeah, certainly that's an element. Is it about being liked? Is it about being liked by your folks? And the cartoon goes, a good leader has to be willing to be disliked. And then he says, you must be a great leader. What do you mean by that? Sorry, I didn't expect you would be listening to me. So a little humor, inject in here. And so this is something oftentimes I think people wrestle with is, what is the role of the leader in an organization? And then one more, is it about listening? And so the boss says, a good leader listens to his underlings. So then, of course, the underling unloads. Fine, I'm overworked, underpaid. I hate my coworkers. I don't have the resources to do my job, and we have no clear strategy. And then this fine example of a boss says, no wonder leaders listen. It's a lot easier than fixing all of that stuff. So again, a little humor. There's an element to listening as well. Hopefully not, again, this negative example of listening, but then actually not doing anything with what you're being told. So let's jump into it. So let's actually explore what do I sort of propose here that are the three secrets of being a successful leader in business. So let's jump in. Number one. So we want to differentiate by this title of a leader versus this idea of a manager, okay? And not to say that one is correct and one is not correct. In fact, obviously a business needs both. You need leaders, you need managers, but they're not the same thing. Now, great managers can also be great leaders, and leaders should know how to manage for sure. But the emphasis on leadership versus management is, I think, innovation. it's really important. The cartoon goes, innovate? No, we already tried that once. It didn't work out. So obviously he missed the point about the process of innovation. And rather than me giving you advice today on how to innovate, I would take this opportunity to refer you back to the phenomenal speaker that we had exactly on this topic way back, a few weeks back in episode 2. That was my good friend Ray Luktu, the founder CEO at Hungry Workhorse. And so we have a whole hour-long episode. If you missed it, I really encourage you, visit our Facebook page for Global Entrepreneurship Philippines and watch that episode. So I will move then right away to secret number 2. So secret number 2 is about inspiring trust versus control. So my little cartoon here, you've probably gotten the idea now. The cartoons are the counterexample, not exactly what you're supposed to do. He says, it's my first passion in life, extreme trust building. And then he's not trusting at all. Poor guy hanging off the cliff is the one who has to trust. Whereas managers tend to rely on control. And again, I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for control. Certainly, you have to manage your business. But you want to be inspirational. So again, number 1, you want to innovate. You need to sort of lead in the innovation of your organization. And even if it's a small business, even if it's just a small handful of folks, or whether it's a big, multinational, I think these points are equally valid. But then you need to inspire trust, because in a culture where you just only control, then people tend to clam up and become rigid, and then of course you cannot innovate in that. So I think maybe I should have even reversed these and put the trust one first, because I think it's really a prerequisite if you want to have an environment where you can innovate and people are free to innovate. Then there needs to be tremendous amount of trust. And so I found this online that I really liked. It was the 7 dimensions of trust. What does trust really mean if we break it down? I think it's not on this slide, but the simple definition that I always like about, trust is basically doing what you say you're going to do, right? Because if you say one thing and you do something else, then people are not going to trust you. But actually they have these 7 dimensions: consistency, being consistent, behaving in a reliable, predictable manner; integrity, that's really following up on being honest, being fair; being open, receptive to ideas and opinions. Again, very important if you're going to innovate, that you're open. Of course, you have to have the ability, you have to have skills to do your job. But then you also need to show empathy. You need to show understanding. You need to understand the folks that you work with, and you need to be fair, and you also need to be available. You need to be accessible. You can't make it too difficult. That's, of course, a challenge right now, especially if the nature of your business is everyone's working from home. Then I would advise, use Facebook Messenger, use Viber, or some other communication channel. Respond, SMS. Make sure that you're available. So secret number 2 is around this idea of trust. And then secret number 3, leaders ask different questions than managers do. And the 2 most important questions that you should be asking are what and why. Whereas, managers tend to more revolve their day around asking how and when. The deadlines. When is this due? How are we going to get this thing done? What is the task? What are we going to do? How are we going to accomplish our task? Whereas leaders ask what, and especially why. And in fact, if you haven't already read it, this is a classic book. Now it's been around for a few years. Simon Sinek. He has an amazing TED Talk. If you're more into videos rather than reading books, just go and Google search Simon Sinek, start with why, and watch his TED Talk. He also has YouTube videos. So he has this outstanding book, Start with Why, and he talks about this idea of the golden circle. So you can see we are framing the what and the how and the why as sort of concentric circles with the with the why being in the middle. And the reason this is important to leadership is that you can see that as you move more to the middle of the circle, the why circle, things move from being clear to fuzzy. And so it's a challenge. It's a challenge to answer the why question. It's much easier to say, oh, what are we going to do today? What are our priorities? How are we going to get it done? The when question, when are we going to get it done by? But if you haven't started with the why are you doing it, then you're probably not going to realize the full potential of what you're trying to do with your business. So why center works around things, as you can see on the diagram here, things like behavior, gut decision making. It's around the purpose. I think most of you who've heard anything about strategic planning, and so I should have put a slide in here and referred you back to our recent episode with Professor Ray from Enderan. He talked about business strategy. Strategic planning, of course, you have your purpose. You define it in your vision statement, your mission statement, and that sort of thing. And then your beliefs should be a part of the values of your company. So I think this sort of ties into those thoughts about mission, vision, value, the types of things you typically do in any strategic planning session. But really, then the how, the what, everything else you do in your business feeds out from there, right? So you start with this little bit fuzzy, why, what are we trying to do? And then make sure that all of the team, your whole team is aligned around this why. And then you'll actually find it much easier to stay on track on the hows and whats of your business. So I think hopefully you start to see that leadership is really important. These are soft skills to be sure, but really important. So there you go. I've revealed. I have more to say about it, but there you go. We've kind of revealed the three secrets. Now notice that in these 3 points that I've made the differentiator between a manager and a leader. And in the cartoons, it also has the not so great boss in the Dilbert cartoons. And I think this is instructive to explore a little bit further, and maybe difficult to do, but ask yourself the question, are you a boss or are you a leader? So let's explore this again, and we'll do it with a little bit of humor. I think this is a good way to break the ice on the subject. So here's a little pop quiz, I think, for you. So which are you, the one on the left or the one on the right? Are you the one, gathering your team together and then telling them with words what it is that they should be doing and how they should be doing it? Or are you the leader who inspires, who can be trusted, and shows them what needs to be done and actually participates in what needs to be done? So hopefully, if you find yourself a little bit on the left side of this cartoon, you can think about how to move yourself more into the right-hand side of this cartoon. Another example is things don't always work. In fact, let me just say something about breakdowns and so-called failure, because a lot of people fear failure, they fear breakdowns. And I think this is another big differentiator between a manager and a leader. Managers fear breakdown, they fear failure, they fear being blamed. Leaders actually thrive on it. A really great leader it kind of might seem a funny thing to say, thrives on failing, thrives on breakdowns. Yes, and the reason is that the way you get the big breakthroughs, the Elon Musk type of mission to Mars, putting rockets in orbit, it's one big long sequence of horrible breakdowns and failures. In fact, I think the Elon Musk, the SpaceX example of Elon, he has Tesla as well, but let's focus on SpaceX. He's trying to eventually get to Mars. You know how many times they created a rocket that, for those who don't know, the breakthrough of SpaceX versus what NASA was doing before is that they developed a rocket that will take the payload into orbit, but then the main booster actually comes back to Earth and lands, and it can be reused. I mean, this is stunningly phenomenal that they've been able to do it. And the reason it's so important is it completely changes the economics of going to space. If every single time you have to build a very expensive multi-million-dollar booster, use it one time to get a payload and throw it away, and then have on the next launch have to start over and invest all that cost again, that's why space is so expensive. If it would be like you using your car once to go to the grocery store and then throwing it away, and then the next time you go to a grocery store, you have to buy another car. Can you imagine now how expensive you would think your groceries are, because you've got to buy a car every time you want to buy groceries? So that's why it was so important. Well, you don't figure out how to land a booster on the ground the first time. You don't even figure out how to do it the second time, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth. Maybe not even the 10th, the 20th, or even the 50th time, perhaps. It takes so many breakdowns, it takes so many failures, and then the perseverance, and an inspired team, and then eventually, guess what? You can land. And if you haven't seen this, go on YouTube, go on your favorite video streaming app, and just search Elon Musk, SpaceX, landing, a booster rocket landing, and it'll just actually stun you. Not only do they land the rocket, but they landed on this little bullseye, and they landed right on the middle of the bullseye. They can even land it on a floating platform out at sea. They land these boosters, on this platform that's kind of rocking in the waves out at sea. So if you are a leader, then you put the arm out, you bring people, in, and you thrive on failures, you thrive on breakdowns, and it's not something that, somehow is something that needs to, blame needs to be assigned. Okay, and then next is, do you participate? Is it always you and always pointing your fingers out somewhere else, or are we a team, right? And so great leaders are the ones who don't say go and tell people to go. They say, let's go. They head off first, and then they have other people follow. And then finally, great leaders give credit. In fact, they really don't care about being recognized or given any credit for themselves. They're all about giving credit to the team. So these go beyond my 3 secrets, but I think they're very much part of the 3 secrets that I gave you. So I think, sort of to sum it up, please be a leader, not a boss. So you've got the contrast here. Okay, now, do you have the mind of a leader? So what is the mindset of a leader? Let's explore this one a little bit. So I've touched on this a bit when I talked about trust. I talked about some of these characteristics, but if I like this is sort of, I'm an engineer, so I like these wiring diagrams, especially kind of wiring up your mind. So these are the really essential elements of leadership: adaptability, tolerance, mobility, being able to move and not be set in your ways, open to ideas, collaborative, not just pointing and telling people what to do. Of course, really great at communicating, good at making decisions, good at making, I would even say, being able to make a decision fairly rapidly. You can only imagine, again, let's go back to Elon, the number of decisions that he's had to make along the way, both with Tesla and SpaceX, that if he took 6 months, on the hard, tough decisions, there would be no rockets going to space. There would be no electric cars driving around on the ground. So you got to be rapid, and then most important of all, that you need to convey this element of leadership at all levels. So now, here's what I want to do. I know you're all digesting this, I think, if you're watching this live. If you're watching on the replay, I guess you have a little bit of an advantage, because you can hit that pause button. You can back up and revisit some of these points I've made. But the most important thing I think I want to leave you with is, too often, and this doesn't just apply to today's topic, this applies to our whole series of 10 episodes. Too often we attend these workshops, these seminars, we watch these videos, especially these days with the pandemic, we're watching so many webinars and whatnot. we're taking notes, we're thinking about things. That's fine, that's good. But I think this is also another key difference between leaders and people who are not leaders, and that is they don't tend to think about this phrase food for thought. They tend to think about food for action. It's like this information, the first thing that should be going through your mind isn't, oh, this sounds interesting, I'll think about it. It's what am I going to do, an hour from now, tomorrow, next week? What action am I going to take around these ideas? And I want you to apply this to all of the topics that we've had so far. We've had 5 episodes before today. This is episode 6. We've got 3 more to go. 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't even count. We got 4 episodes to go. And you should be putting into action each week around the topic. By the way, if you haven't seen the previous episodes, please do go back and watch them. And then say, what am I going to do tomorrow? And write down not notes and ideas. Write down, this is the action I'm taking tomorrow on what I learned. And I think then you will have much better chance of being successful. So now, having said that, food for action rather than food for thought, if you do want to think a bit about these topics, I already mentioned one fantastic book, the one by Simon Sinek on Start With Why. There's 3 other classics that I really encourage you. I think there are PDF versions of these online or digital versions of online. You can get them relatively inexpensively because they're not new books, but there are classics. So I have 3 for you. One is Warren Bennis on Becoming a Leader. You can see the jacket, the book jacket even claims the leadership classic. And much of what I've shared about these 3 secrets with you today of leaders comes from Warren. So if you want a deeper dive on some of these ideas, I do encourage you. It's not a new book. It's actually from quite a while ago. But that's a great thing about great advice and great concepts is that they stand the test of time. And a lot of these ideas, are really from the last decades. Another classic is John Maxwell. John is a prolific author. I think I have half a dozen or more of his books on leadership. Now, whereas I gave you 3, John is much more ambitious than I am in his book. He's giving you 21 irrefutable, even laws of leadership. Follow them and people will follow you. And it's forward by Stephen Covey, no less. So this was a New York Times best-selling book. It's been, it was revised and updated, millions of copies, over 1 million copies sold. It's written more than a decade ago. But if you really want to get into it and start with the 3 I gave you, but then go in and then there's many great leadership advice in this book. And then the final one, not really so much just about leadership. It's really about way more than that. You can see #1 bestseller, 3 million copies sold. The subtitle, Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't. And then the main title, Good to Great. So this is a super classic. I'm sure when Sam comes back on, we'll chat a little bit about this. Jim Collins, he has another book called Built to Last, but this is the real classic, Good to Great. And I love this title, and it's one that you can also reflect on for yourself and ask the question, is your business good or is it great? And if it's good, fine, that's fine. You can be, proud of that too. But dare to be great. What do you need to be great? And then I think Jim has some phenomenal advice for you on that. So that's what I have to say about the topic, that the big reveal on the 3 secrets. I won't summarize it now because I'm sure we'll chat about it with Sam in a few minutes. But I do want to just ask for your indulgence for a moment. If you've been watching several of these episodes, you know that I represent Global Chamber here in the Philippines for Metro Manila. And probably a lot of you thought, oh, what is this anyway? What's this Global Chamber thing? You haven't heard about it. So I would just like to take the moment, since I've got the stage here today and I have my slides up, and tell you a little bit more about Global Chamber. So let's start with the why, take our own advice. What's the why? So the why for Global Chamber, really our mission, the reason we exist, is that we're trying to accelerate cross-border trade and investment. And how do we do that? We engage executives and leaders, but I use this word executive, but even if you just have your own business and you're the only employee of your own business, all the way up to running, large multinational corporations. Though we have people in our community from all sizes. And what we do is we connect you to people and we connect you to information, and we have you join a really exciting, fun community that's across the world and help you grow. So we are actually already worldwide. We're helping businesses grow across 525 major metropolitan cities around the world. That's sort of like all of them. That's about all the metros in the world. We've got a network now of over 200 million people. And so we really can connect you, whether you're looking for clients, whether you're looking for resources or partners. And I love our sort of catchphrase, be global, and then, capital letters, unstoppable. And that's what we're really all about. It is a membership organization. So, full disclosure, it's not free. It does cost some money to join Global Chamber, but, we obviously think the value is there. Not only do you get warm and trusted connections to grow your business, access to the resources you need to grow across borders, but you also have access to trusted help. And we talked about trust already in the leadership secrets. And then once again, I refer you back to a previous episode. We were very honored and fortunate earlier on in our series to have Doug Brunke, who is the founder and CEO, the global CBO of Global Chamber. He's based in the US, but he oversees Global Chamber operations all around the world. And in fact, he's American, but he's lived in Asia himself. He's very familiar with our part of the world. And then finally, we're trying to give everyone a break. We know times are tough with the pandemic. So I'm very excited that, Doug has been very generous for the Philippines. And because of the special partnership that we have with BounceBack Philippines and Business Enabling Toolbox, as well as all of the other partners, which I should give my big thanks to, by the way, across the bottom of your screen here, you'll see the Digital Bayan initiative of BounceBack, as well as all of our other partners, including Dominguez and Digital Bayan, and also our platform partner for the LMS. So because of this special partnership and we're trying to give back to the community, we're offering a full half off on the first year membership. I think this really hasn't been done before, but we're doing it here in the Philippines. And the best way, if you'd like to know more, is just email us. Depending on if you're let me somewhat jokingly say, if you're older, email us. If you're younger, message us on Facebook. And if you're even younger still, as my interns have pointed out, reach out to us on Instagram, and we'd be happy to give you more information. You can, of course, we have a website, globalchamber.org, and you can join us. You can research more about us on that. And then finally, and Sam, I'll come back to you. I love to connect with people. I use LinkedIn also for that purpose. So you can. I was very lucky. I went on LinkedIn very early. I was one of the first adopters of LinkedIn, so I was able to grab my own name. Granted, it's a little bit of an unusual name, but linkedin.com/in/Colin Christie if you want to connect up with me and interact with me. So I hope you found this instructive and useful and valuable. But remember, it's not food for thought, it's food for action. And Sam, back to you.
Yeah, thank
There
you,
he is.
Colin. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's take this off. Colin really was taking down notes, but we have some questions actually from our, from our audience. One of them is here, what are the qualities that are lacking right now among today's leaders? So it came from our, one of our audience members. So again, based on your experience, what you've seen, what you've heard, and then what you've read in the news, for example. So
yeah. What fantastic question. First of all, thanks for the question. I would say I would come back to the point I was making, and I did belabor it. I did spend a lot of time on it on purpose. So I'll come back to it even again. It's this idea of somehow thinking that failure is bad, right? So I think that's a quality that's lacking. And unfortunately, in this modern life that we live, and even maybe how some people were raised or how they were taught in school, especially. I mean, what happens in school, unfortunately, is you sit in class and then you get graded on everything you do, and unless you achieve a high score, somehow you're lacking. And then we develop this mindset like, oh my gosh, I can't fail. Everything has to be a success. And then we go out into the business world, and it's not that way. I mean, you can't be thinking, I'm going to succeed at everything I touch. So I think that's a quality that tends to be lacking a little bit today, is the sort of fear of failure, not being, I don't know, Sam, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Like Colin, I'm also reflecting on your talk right now, right? I think one of the biggest challenges for us, like, I know there are days when entrepreneurs don't like to get out of bed, right? I mean, like, it's like,
Right.
it's the struggle of really getting up and then facing the same, challenges again. Especially for those who take their risk, take the risk of going out, and then, bringing their wares, for example, meeting with people. And especially during these times, like, you don't know, especially if there's a new variant that's more contagious, right? Every day, we take that risk whenever we go out and then build our business. But then again, I said, look, you have to do it, right? Meaning that's why I love that you pick good to great. I mean, really the key to that, I again back read it. Really, three things that the book stress on: you need disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. So again, it actually maps to our number one competency, right? Which is personal mastery. I mean, if you don't do that, again, ask yourself this question: if you're an entrepreneur, what will I be after this pandemic? Will I just be good again, or will I be great? So again, that transformation journey, really, Colin, we have to do it as entrepreneurs. Like, we have to really discipline ourselves in thought, as you said, and in action, right? So, and of course, surround ourselves with equally disciplined people, right? So, yep.
Yeah, I think you make such a great point, Sam. And I'm thinking back to the phrase that you all have, introduced into our language, which is bounce back better. Bounce back better.
Yep.
It really captures that sentiment. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
about bouncing back. It's good to great, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
let's really achieve. And of course, no one would ever wish this pandemic on anyone, or we'd never want to see it happen again. But those, I think, who will bounce back better are the ones who are investing in themselves during this time. We're locked up. We're not out in the mountains or on the beach or taking vacations. We're looking for ways to improve ourselves. And I think obviously it's somewhat selective that the audience we have here today watching live and the ones watching the replay, by their very nature, are the ones who are educating themselves, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely. Like,
yeah.
Again, the choice between watching a movie or watching a show that will give you something new, right? Follow up question again: what can you advise to present and future leaders who are scared to take risk, and why is it important to learn how to take risk? Again, fear. We can call it
Right.
fear factor. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, you
Yeah.
first, a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So scared to take risk. Well, uh, probably again, I know I'm sounding a little bit about a broken record now, but it comes back to this whole way that you think about failure. If you're thinking about failure as something bad to be avoided at all costs, then of course you're not going to want to take any risk. So these things, really kind of two sides of the same coin. On the other hand, if you're going into it, the Elon Musk mindset, like, wow, can you just imagine if we learn how to land this multi-million-dollar booster rocket on this little tiny platform bobbing in the sea? We totally change the economics of going to space. The payoff and rewards are so great that we revel in the failures. Every time we have a failure, we think, oh, great, we're closer to our goal now. We're one failure fewer to our goal. And now you take the risk. Can you imagine? You would never take the risk to try to land a booster rocket if somehow you fear a failure. So I think, again, I know it's a bit of a repeat on my previous advice, but scared to take risk. What's my advice? Now, having said that, I'm not saying just be brazen and just do anything and fail in such a way that you put yourself out of business. I mean, let's be reasonable here. So you still need to think about risk, but I think maybe look for opportunities. They say fail fast, fail often, right? But in small pieces. So if you're pushing the boundaries, so you're looking for ways to fail fast and fail often, then eventually, you get to that breakthrough. So we all want breakthrough. We all want breakthrough success, but it's breakdown that leads to breakthrough. So you can't get the breakthrough if you're not willing to go through the breakdown.
Yep.
Does that make sense, Sam?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as well as a setback leads to a bounce back, really. So, Colin, yeah. And then
Yeah, exactly.
yep, I remember this one too. This courage really is not the absence of fear, but the management of fear. So, fear, just like any other emotion, can be managed. So, again, follow-up questions. That's actually a good one. Like, can young or inexperienced people be good leaders? Wow. So, again, we have young listeners here also. So,
yeah. Well, you might be surprised to hear me the answer that I'm going to give you, which is, I actually think young and inexperienced people are more likely to be good leaders, not less likely to be good leaders. And I'll back this up. Look at all of the phenomenal successes of the digital age and the people you were asking me earlier about, examples of leadership. We talked about Elon quite a bit, but let's look at some other ones. Let's look at Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. He was all of what, 20, 21, 22, something like that when he did that. Let's look at Bill Gates, one of the most wealthiest people on the planet. He dropped out of Harvard. I mean, who does that? Not because he couldn't afford it. His parents were well off. It was all paid for. But he dropped out of Harvard because he had this great idea, and he moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, of all places, from Boston. And then he started Microsoft at a very young age.
With Paul Allen, with Paul Allen, right? So yeah,
Paul Allen, but the two of them together, for sure.
Yeah.
And then a more recent example would be the co-founders of Google. They were two Stanford, Sergey Brin and then obviously Facebook, and everybody's seen the Facebook movie, so they all know the controversies around how Facebook was started. But wow, these are all young, so-called inexperienced people, and they became very good, very leaders and very successful. Why? Well, again, here we go, the broken record again. It's because they are risk takers. They're more, and they're not so afraid to fail. They probably can afford to fail because, unfortunately, the older you get responsibilities. You get married, and then you have children, and now you have to pay the rent and the car payment and put food on the table. So and I'm very sympathetic to that. You can't necessarily take the same level of risk. So yeah, if you want to be a great leader, you don't need to get that experience. Go for it. The inexperience and the youth can actually your assets, not your liability, and go for it. I think you can be a very good leader.
Definitely. Yeah, Colin, I believe leadership is also, you tend to embed it in your DNA, right? So that's why discipline is called out there. You need to do it constantly. So it becomes naturally to you that you lead especially during times of, I've seen people, Colin, like, for example, there's a disaster. There's some people who freeze, right? For example. But if you notice, there are people who will take action, right? And sometimes unexpectedly. For example, there's a fire. For example, the other people will freeze, but there are those who really take action, and then lead people out of safety. So again, I believe leadership can be acquired. It can be developed. But then again, you need to grasp it. You need to really seize it. So a young person, I think, Colin, I was reading up on Joan of Arc today. She was just 16 years old, I believe, when she led that. But then again, you ladies out there, she has an interesting life. So there's a bit of a religious significance. But again, she was a teenager, when she led France. Okay. Another question here from our again.
Before you go to the next question, Sam, I just want to add. You mentioned that leadership. You can gain these capabilities. You got to practice them every day and all. So I wanted to add one more very important suggestion, which is find a mentor. Find a mentor. So find people who you think are great leaders. Oftentimes people are sort of shy or afraid to go and ask for help or ask someone who they perceive to be, so accomplished to mentor them. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how people who are great leaders, who have got, in fact, by the very nature of what made them a good leader, let's say that they, are the positive examples of the secrets that I showed earlier. By that very nature, they love to mentor. They love it. They really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And so, approach someone, maybe it's a relative or family member or someone in a business, that but reach out to them. And there's another great book. I didn't have it on my list, and I'm probably going to get the title a little bit wrong. But it basically along the lines of Never Eat Alone, I think is the title of the book. Have you heard of this book, Sam?
Yeah, I have that one. Simon Sinek also wrote that. So yeah.
Yeah, Simon. Yeah, exactly. Did I get the title right? Is it Never Eat Alone?
Yep.
Yeah. And what's that all about? It's about reaching out to people who you can learn from. Mm-hmm. So of course it's a little bit difficult in the pandemic. We are kind of eating alone with family. But post-pandemic, the idea is, look, if you go to lunch probably every day, don't just go with the same group of work friends or friends. Reach out to someone and say, hey, could we have lunch on Thursday? Could we have a lunch on Friday? It might get a little expensive, but find that mentorship. So I think that's really important. And I think that's something, by the way, that the BounceBack Network is also to be applauded for, because you're building a community of connected people, and out of that connection can rise, mentorship as well.
Yep, and Colin, we have our own mentorship program here at Global Entrepreneurship, right? So those who are members of our early adopter program, again, welcome. So as you go into your journey, again, we hope that we'll be able to share with you, wisdom, that we've had already as we, do our day-to-day business. So again, those who are here, tune in, are from who are part of our early adopter program for the business enabling tool. Again, welcome. The Shen is just on leave right now, but again, we'll resume our mentorship, once we the Shen gets back. Okay. So Colin, again, another question here. Do you think good leadership should be judged based on influence or the intent? Again, maybe they're not mutually exclusive, but influence versus intent. So,
well, maybe both, I guess. The intent is obviously very important. We talked about the mindset and the way you go about things, and the mind of a leader. I showed you that diagram, and so there's a lot of intent involved there. But at the end of the day, it comes back to my food for thought versus food for action. You can have all the intent in the world and all the thoughts in the world, but then if you don't take action and you don't end up having influence and results, then of course it's not of value. So I think it's a little bit both. I don't know, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially now, Colin, when everything's transparent online, right? If you're searching for a mentor, for example, you don't just look at the credentials of that person that you're would like to be your mentor, but look at the fruits. Meaning, what does this person do, right? How is he, for example, in private? Is he the same, in public? For example, who does he help? How does he, for example, solve problems? Who are the communities that he has, reach out to, etc. So again, each person is multifaceted, right? So, and then each person's influence, for example, is different. And of course, the intent, actually, you can see it. It's based on the fruits or the results of what a person does. So again, if the intent is not good, then the result will probably be not good. But if the intent is pure, and it will appear, it will show in the results of that person. So, yep, that's my take on it, Colin. By the way, we have a comment here earlier from our friend Thierry. Let me just put it here. Okay, it's very interesting comment.
Hey Thierry,
all the way from Utah. So a leader must also have the talent for convincing investors to give money to financial. Always on point here. So again, hello from you. You're from Utah, right? From Utah. So
he's a global chamber advisor and part of the global chamber family from Utah. So thanks for joining once again. I know it's early hours there. So no, great point. But actually, you know what? My response though is, I know a lot of investors. I've dealt with a lot of investors of the years. Sam, I know you have as well. Investors, of course, they're investing in the idea. Investing in the viability, the business plan, whether they think it's going to work, the product or the service, they have to believe in it and all. But you know what? At the end of the day, when they have to sit down and write the check, I guess these days it's digital, but it's not that physical check. But when they have to write that check, actually send the money, I tell you, and I know this from investors, the most important thing to actually write the check is that they believe in you, the person, the person. Yes, the idea has to be there, the business plan has to be there. But if all of that's there and they have to go and write that check and they think, geez, I'm not really sure I'm not really sure about this Colin guy, if I should be investing in him, you're not going to get the money. And so I think this topic is absolutely appropriate to then this notion of raising funds, because when I say they have to believe in you, what are they believing in? They're believing in your leadership ability. They're believing in what kinds of person are you, and all of those characteristics that I had in my formal presentation a few minutes ago, I think apply all of these characteristics. If you have those characteristics, and you don't even, you don't need to promote it, you don't need to talk about it. That's the thing about great leaders, is it's self-evident. It's self-evident. If you're a great leader, it's your act. What you said a moment ago, it's the actions, it's the fruits. If you're taking action and you have the fruits of a leader, that actually will help you with investors. That'll help you attract money. Granted, all the other prerequisites are there, but getting that check actually written, the money deposited to your business's bank account, it boils down to who you are as a leader.
Yep, definitely. Colin, in that process that you mentioned, if there will be investors who will be believing in you, I'm going to put in reverse what you presented. Because they're going to invest in you if you have inspired them. So that's the third one you said, like, because once you have inspired them, then they will trust you. Okay, and then once they've trusted you, then you can begin innovating. So that's again, you just put
that's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah.
Up in reverse. So that's why again, when you are in our global entrepreneurship, no business really is so small, that you can go global. So that's why again, join Global Chamber. Colin, I'm going to share our reminders. We're about to end the show.
Excellent.
So that our audience will know what's going to happen. Next week. Again, we went back to the forest view again, right? Because this is about leadership. So, but next week, Colin. So we're now on our 7th episode next week. So wow. So would you mind telling our audience what to expect at Sherwin when Sherwin comes on board? So on June 30th.
Yes. So we've definitely saved the date, mark your calendar. These days analytics is everywhere. The ability to use data and make decisions and get value and get success through the use of data is vital these days. Frankly, it's like a mandatory skill. Maybe 10, 15 years ago it wasn't, but today it is. And so we are very fortunate that we have Sherwin Palayo. He's a trustee, a member of the board of the Analytics Association of the Philippines, but also someone who's got tremendous experience. He's been with Accenture and IBM, been with Teradata. He teaches at the master's degree level at UANP in their business analytics program. So here's someone who really knows this, and he works with a lot of entrepreneurs. He's done a lot of coaching and design thinking events and that sort of thing. So the topic is on how small businesses and entrepreneurs can gain insights through analytics. So I think you're going to find that very instructive.
And again, based on discipline, Colin, this is one activity that entrepreneurs should do. To get to know your customers, get to know your market. Again, because of digital technology, it's now easier to get to know about what your market does and what your customers do online. So again, looking forward to this and looking forward to host Sherwin on the BounceBack Network next week. Okay, so Colin, again, reminder also that all of these will lead to certification. So we haven't yet turned on our certification for this Adept. So, but once all of the episodes probably are live or are available in our learning management system, then you can take the exam and you can get certified. Can be a certified global entrepreneur. Again, vetted by the BounceBack Network, Global Chamber, and all our other partners here, of course, BET. So again, then hopefully you'll be able to build up, your skills, as a global entrepreneur. Following Adept, you can be an expert and a master like Colin. So, and then by that time, I believe hopefully the pandemic is done, and then what will emerge with the pandemic will be a better you, will be a global entrepreneur you. Okay. And our partners, actually, this is the site of Bluepoint Foundation. If you want to get to know more about them, you can actually just go to bluepoint.foundation to know more. But they've been helping us, at the BounceBack Network and also with Global Entrepreneurship. They just celebrated their 22nd anniversary, Colin. So again, congratulations to Engel Sumagi.
Awesome.
Yeah. Actually, their founder is former Senator Jovita Salongas, one of the most distinguished senator from the Philippines. Though he passed, he's still fondly remembered. He's the one who kicked out the U.S. bases in the Philippines, Colin. So Senator Salongas. So, that was, it's a very historic. He was the Senate president then when that happened. Okay. Of course, another partners, of course, Dominguez PR. Again, we're highlighting our partners because they give these services pro bono, everyone. So again, they're disciplined to give. So thank you, Dominguez PR, for helping us with our events management also. And of course, to our media partners who will be watching this now on replay, please write about us. Again, we'll be announcing, new programs soon once the series is over. But again, please visit Dominguez at the, dominguezmarketing.net. And of course, again, reminder to you, please like our Facebook page, Global Entrep. Just search it. We'll be announcing more than the sessions, additional materials and additional, events that you can, go to. For example, Global Chamber, we post our events there, right, Colin? So both here and on LinkedIn, you can also find us on LinkedIn. And similarly, we have a group. Also, this is where most of our early adopted program members are. And this is where we conduct, mentorships, one-to-many, and then, of course, one-on-one when needed. And, of course, again, reiterating that Global Chambers extended an exclusive 50% off to all BounceBack Network members. So please grab this, and then you'll be plugged in, to hundreds, and close to thousands of communities worldwide of fellow entrepreneurs, okay? And last but not least, this is the Global Chamber page, Manila. And here, this is Business Enabling Toolbox. Again, please get on board. We have an exclusive promo for all the BounceBack Network members and those who are watching this show. Please just type in BB plus GC plus BET 70 to get the 70% off. And then 10% of the proceeds, Colin, again, will go to BounceBack Philippines COVID relief program. So we're going to see you on our next episode, June 30, with Sherwin Pelayo. And again, Colin, any last words for our, for our friends or tuned in and those who are going to watch on replay?
Well, stay healthy, everyone. Stay safe. It's good to see in the news that the supply of vaccines seems to be increasing, but I know we're still closer to the beginning than the end, unfortunately. But there are good efforts underway. So please stay safe, stay healthy. Take this time that you still have while we're at home to continue to learn. Please watch the episodes that you missed, get caught up so that you're all ready to go for the analytics session next week. And thanks very much, Sam, for letting me take the stage today and monopolizing the episode.
Anytime, Colin. You can do it anytime. Okay. Once again, this is Sam Koba with Colin Christie. Thank you very much for joining us for the 6th episode of Global Entrepreneurship.
Do you want to have the foresight of Warren Buffett or Steve Jobs? Growing your business couldn't be easier. BET's unique and easy-to-use platform is your ultimate business companion. Available whenever you need it, no matter where you are, 24/7.
And who wouldn't want their business to do better? Whether you want to expand, increase sales, or spread out to new locations, it's important to know what you need to do, why you need to do it, and how you should do it.
BET gives you all the essential tools that you need to maximize your profits. Keep track of your finances, target the right customers, become an exceptional leader, assess risk, and set goals for your business. Cross-device functionality and a comprehensive toolbox of downloadable pre-populated templates are just some of the benefits of BET.
Let BET show you the what, why, and how of setting achievable goals for your business